taking you through today's session. We've got a 1 hour session, so it's a full 60 minutes, which I think may be one of our longer sessions on a Wednesday. Only by a couple of minutes or so. So today's session, as you can see by the title, is called Over-Unders, and it's a time trial specific session, and it's just basically aimed to increase our FTP, our threshold, which is kind of pretty central to all that we do as bike riders. You know, whether you're riding uphill, downhill, on the flat, whatever it is, you know, having a good FTP is fundamental, really. So that's what today's session is going to help us to develop. So before we start the session and kind of the main nuts and bolts of the session, so the two blocks, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the warm-up. So warm-up, you know, very, very important, not to be undervalued or overlooked. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Is, you know, our time we have available for most people is precious, and we don't have that much time to be able to dedicate towards training. So it's important that when we're trying to train, we do so efficiently and basically try and make the most of every minute that we spend riding our bike. So if training and getting better is your goal, and if training and getting better isn't necessarily your goal, it's more a case of just enjoying cycling for what it is, you know, warm-up still has a place in everyone's training regime, and everyone's at the start of every session, if not for anything more than just preventing injury. So, you know, warm-up helps warm up our joints, our ligaments, our tendons, and all that good stuff, so we don't pull a muscle, pull a ligament, and do any damage. But more so, it helps. So from more of a physiological, performance point of view, what a warm-up really does is it warms our blood up. Literally gets our blood nice and warm, nice and viscous, so it can flow around our body a lot easier. It dilates our blood vessels, literally to allow that oxygen-rich blood to pass through a lot easier, and that kind of reduces the stress on our heart, because as our body is demanding more and more oxygen, our heart's pumping harder and harder to supply that oxygen, and through tiny little blood vessels, it's producing a lot of pressure and demand on the heart. So our blood vessels literally dilate, get bigger, so it's easier for more blood that's carrying the oxygen to pass through. So all this good stuff is happening right now, right as we speak. Don't even realise it, but it is. And another misconception, or a misconception about warming up, is over how hard you need to ride in the warm-up. So I think most people, and I certainly fall into this bracket, warm up too hard. Well, certainly I have done until recently. So just think about, when you're warming up and you're producing a load of lactic acid in your legs, and you can really feel that burn. As soon as you've got that lactic in your legs, you're carrying that then for the duration of your session. So even if after warming up you have a short break, so we've got a couple of minutes easy, or if you're warming up for a race, even if you have a couple of minutes easy, once you've produced lactic acid, you've damaged your muscle fibers. That is sat in your legs then for the rest of that session, or for your race. So the point I'm coming to is, when we warm up, we don't actually have to ride as hard and for as long as many of us do, as many of us think. And it's a topic. It was a topic of our coaching podcast a couple of weeks ago, and basically the conclusion was, this is all based on science, that you can you'll be prepared for strenuous exercise, and we're talking a flat-out 4-kilometre track pursuit off of roughly a 10 to 12 minute warm-up. And we're suggesting a good warm-up. If you kind of ride for a couple of minutes, really easy to jump on. First 2 minutes, literally just turning the pedals, getting your mind into the zone, and kind of dialing into that effort, or dialing into the fact that you're on a push bike. And then you spend the next 6 or 7 minutes just slowly ramping that effort up to about 90% of your threshold. So you're still well under threshold, and that's kind of quite a progressive warm-up. And during that time, and if you haven't noticed, that's what we're doing now, guys. We're warming up progressively, slowly getting the, warming up the blood, warming up our whole body. Our heart rate should be slowly increasing. Our breath, we should be taking slightly deeper breaths as the warm-up goes on, as we're trying to get more and more oxygen in. It should be quite a progressive warm-up for up till about 8 to 9 minutes, and then literally a few very short 6-second surges. So by surges I mean short sprints, and you can go pretty much, if you're warming up for a competitive event and you really want to be firing on all cylinders from the first K, you want to be doing those sprints flat out, and you probably want to be doing three or four surges. But because they're only 6 seconds long, you're not really going to produce any lactic acid, you're not really going to do any significant muscle damage, so you're not going to dent your legs for your race or your event, whatever it may be. Yet, by those 6-second efforts are long enough to send signals to all your muscle fibers to say, wake up, we've got some activity going on here, I need you to be alert. And what that does then is make sure all your muscle fibers are firing, they're all alert, they're all responsive, and they're all able to be used and recruited come the very first pedal stroke of your event, which I'm sure you can appreciate how important that is for a very short event like many of the track events. So taking a pursuit on the track, maybe 4 or 5 minute effort, right from the first half a lap, first 15 seconds or so, you've got to be on it. And without those surges, without sending those signals to your muscle fibers, all your fast twitch muscle fibers to say, right, we're ready, we're about to go here, then you're not going to perform. And the same theory applies for the road. You really don't need to be riding that hard for that long for a road event. And if you're doing a road race, unless your plan in the road race is to get in the early move and really be active from the start, I'd go for a very short tarmac warm-up, as I call it. Literally just jump right up and down the road for 5-10 minutes, nice and steady. Just turn the legs, check the bike out, make sure your brakes aren't rubbing or anything, and that's going to do. And then taking it a step further, if you're doing a sportif, chances are if you're a sportif rider, the event you've got ahead of you is going to be pretty challenging. You're going to be pushing yourself, probably beyond your comfortable zone. You're going to be basically pushing your limits to their max. So why would you bother spending energy, so using vital energy stores, warming up, when you can just treat the first 5 miles or so as a sportif, as a warm-up? Because then it's not a race. So sportifs by definition are not races. And you know what? If you're that serious about a sportif, you're worried about losing a couple of seconds in the first 5 miles, you probably want to start racing. If you're kind of that way inclined, you probably want to start racing, doing it properly. But even if you are competitive and you are doing sportifs, don't worry about actually warming up. Treat the first few miles as a warm-up, and what you may lose in the first few miles, you'll certainly make up for in saved energy towards the back end of the event. In the last in the last 20, 30 miles, plenty of time. But on these long distance sportives, you can never, and use the word win loosely, you can never win it at the start. You can certainly lose it. And that kind of mentality applies to time trialing, all sorts of any timed event really, even a shorter pursuit. Track pursuit, the 16 laps, 4K. You can't win it in the first lap, but you can lose it. And by that I mean if you set off too hard and you generate too much lactic acid, that lactic acid then is pooling in your legs. You've done that damage, and yeah, you're going to carry it for the duration. Right guys, activation sprint here. There we go. So that's kind of what I meant by these surges. It's not an all-out sprint. It's just a little squeeze on, just for a few seconds. So I've put one in today, 1 10-second surge. If we're saying for kind of a mediocre session, that's probably about right. So you should be feeling pretty warmed up now. Your core body temperature has warmed up. And one thing that Kev Poulton said, who's one of the coaches on the Zwift coaching podcasts, is you should be able to feel when you're adequately warmed up. And I feel the main thing to be conscious of is just your pedaling stroke. If you can feel at the start of the session, it's a bit laboured, you're consciously the left leg, right leg, shifting on the saddle, and perhaps you haven't got that much of a fluid pedaling stroke. But when you're really warmed up and you're ready to go, as hopefully you guys all are now, I certainly feel that way. That pedaling stroke should just feel a lot more fluid, a lot more natural, and yeah, you kind of get those sensations that we're good to go. Right, just going to check my Zwift companion app here, see what's going on. Also going to check, see if you've got any questions coming through. Okay guys, so Sordeely it's just posted on the Facebook page. What is this? Well, I'll excuse you because you probably think, yeah, well, fair question. What is this? Well, this is a Zwift workout. So Zwift is an interactive cycling or gamification cycling app, where you can train, ride your bike, you can even race on it. And this is actually a structured session, a structured workout, kind of coach-led. So I'm a coach. I'm in my I'm in Rowe King HQ. I'm leading this session for the benefit of everyone following. Okay, so guys, we're into the first block here, if you hadn't noticed. And so today's session, you notice I'm a little bit more concentrated now as we're into the main bulk of the session. But today's session is called over-unders. The purpose of the session is to try and increase our lactic threshold, or what's commonly referred to as our functional threshold power, which is kind of represented by a number of watts, and that number is supposed to represent the point at which our body can get rid of lactic at exactly the same rate at which you're producing it. So the harder you ride, when you start tipping anaerobic, your body can't produce, so it can't get rid of all the lactic that it's producing. But there is kind of a sweet spot at which your body is perfectly getting rid of that lactic at the same rate as that you're producing it, and that's called our lactic threshold. So it's just on the edge of it. Now, the higher your threshold, ultimately the easier cycling becomes on many fronts. So your climbing will become a little bit easier. You know, everything, literally your time trialing is based around it. There are so many real world benefits that you'll feel to having a higher FTP. So that's what we're trying to do today, guys. There's a few generally accepted methods for improving your FTP. You kind of either work above your FTP, kind of work in kind of zone 5, zone 6, anaerobic capacity type stuff to try and drag your threshold up, or you work below your FTP, below your threshold, kind of sweet spot or lower zone 4 to try and bump up your threshold. And what we're trying to do today is work pretty much at or around FTP, slightly above, then slightly under, slightly above, slightly under. What that does is teaches our body to kind of produce lactic faster than we can get rid of it, the over part. But then because we produce lactic and we've kind of gone over our threshold, we can't keep that up for too long. So we'll allow ourselves a little chance to recover by going under threshold for 2 minutes. There's a very small difference, only 10% difference between the over and the under part. So it's a very fine line, pretty tough session, but hugely rewarding. And if you implement, if you kind of schedule yourself a few over-under sessions, it will hopefully help nudge up your threshold and give you a higher FTP. Whew. Doing quite a lot of talking here. Right, so that was the under part. Just going over now, so we're going over threshold. And the sensations you should feel here, the over part should be, your legs hurt. You can kind of feel a little bit of lactic acid creeping in, and you're having to concentrate. Talking is difficult. And then in the under part, you should feel like a slight ease off. You should feel, the sensation should be slightly more relaxed, slightly more manageable. I'm not saying talking is then manageable completely, but you should be able to squeak a few more words out, and you should feel some of that lactic acid just fade away. Okay, good job. And this block, by the way, is 16 minutes. Yep, Adam, you're right, it is hard to talk. So this is coming up to, into our 8th minute here, onto our 7th minute. About to complete the first half of the first block. So 8 out of 16 minutes, almost complete. That kind of represents halfway. No, I tell a lie, that's 6 minutes. Cancel that. The higher your threshold, your FTP, the easier sub-threshold efforts become. So say, for argument's sake, your threshold was 300 watts. An effort sub-threshold at 250 watts is going to feel, fairly like a solid effort. Let's say you bumped and let me rephrase that. So you're in a group doing 250 watts and you've got a threshold of 300. Take you in 6 months' time in that same group with a threshold of, say, 350 watts, just for illustration purposes. I know that's a big increase. You in 6 months, you're riding 100 watts sub-threshold compared to you now riding 50 watts sub-threshold. So you've got an extra 50 watt buffer between that point where you can no longer recycle that lactic as quick as you're producing it. So you can basically allow that bunch to speed up 100 watts worth of miles per hour, k an hour. You know, that could be 3, 4, 5 k an hour difference in speed. Yet you're still able to manage it. Good job, everyone. Hopefully you've all got some liquid. Now this is quite a mentally tough session. There's really no respite. And once you're into this effort now, 16 minutes of it, then we get a 10-minute break, then to the next 60-minute block. So as soon as you're into those 60-minute efforts, it's 60 minutes pretty consistent around your threshold. A mixture above and below your threshold. Pretty relentless. What this will do, as I've said a few times, is help nudge your threshold up, and that really does make your whole cycling experience a lot easier. Everything you do on a bike will become slightly easier with a higher threshold. So Lewis is asking here about cadence for this workout. So an efficient cadence for riding on the flat is between 80 and 90 revs a minute. So if you're riding anywhere in that range, ideally towards the 90 end, good job. Don't do anything too different. If you're pedaling somewhere in the 70s, you want to try and nudge your cadence up a little bit. And if you're anywhere over 100 revs a minute mark, you're pedaling pretty quickly there, you can afford to decrease your cadence slightly. I know that cadence topic is a big topic in itself. A lot of it comes down to what you're used to. So if you've been riding for years and you're very much used to riding at a certain cadence, if you're trying to change that drastically, it's going to have a negative impact on your performance in the short term. So if you do kind of realize that your cadence is a bit high or a bit low, and you want to try and work on it, do so gradually, and don't expect anything too drastic overnight. Ciao. Okay guys, good job everyone. So that's 10 minutes done in this first block, 6 minutes left. 6 minutes left. Really important here guys, just to stay composed and suck this effort up, just absorb the workload, because rocking and rolling and moving around doesn't help anyone. It certainly won't make you quicker. I've got a question here asking when should this session be done in your season. So this is a real general conditioning session really, and it can fit in 12 months of the year. If you're for the time-strapped cyclists, as many of us are, and certainly a lot of the riders that I coach have not got that much time. We haven't got the luxury of riding, going out a few times a week, riding for a long time. So we can struggle to build up that aerobic base, kind of the old school way of just sheer volume. And now we know, science tells us that that's not the most effective way, and certainly not the most time efficient way to build your aerobic base. And so, riding under threshold and around threshold for the time-strapped cyclist is pretty fundamental. I'd have thought you should be doing a session like this at least once a week, all year round. Unless you're in that, tapering for an event, or in the kind of the final prep or it's kind of your first couple of weeks back on the bike, then maybe a few exceptions, but you know, for most riders, some sort of how to call it, moderate state, zone 3, zone 4 type effort, general conditioning sessions should be part of everyone's training regime. You know, it's probably now that we're heading into the last 4 minutes, so the last over, the last under block. You're starting to feel it. If you are, that's pretty normal. We have got over 10 minutes of near threshold effort in our legs, and that has got a cumulative training effect and cumulative building this cumulative stress on our body, so we're probably getting quite tired now. But just as important now, these last couple of minutes, just as important as the first couple of minutes. Whoa. 30 seconds left of the over bit, guys. Good job. Stick with it. So 2 minutes, 10 seconds left of this first block. Nice one. Now, really importantly, stay composed, guys. Now, as this effort eases off now slightly, that's not a signal for us to back off, block over, although kind of mentally we are, we've pretty much broken the back of it with only 2 minutes sub-threshold to go. Stick with it, stay concentrated, and let's see the session through properly. Well done, guys, everyone. This is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Come on, guys, heads up. Just look at that screen, don't let your heads drop. I know there's a tendency for it when you get tired. Just keep your heads up, looking at that screen. Keep your cadence where you want it to be. Stay relaxed, nice and composed. Just over a minute left. We're there, guys, we're there. Well done. Awesome. Well done, guys. Stick with it. Come on. Awesome. 30 seconds to go. Soak it up. Like a well-oiled machine. Just sit there, left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg. Just pump it out. Keeping that body still. There's no cheats for this, guys. No cheats. See it through. 10 seconds left. Okay, awesome. Good job, good job. Whew. Right, that is end of the first block, which is basically halfway. Halfway. Got a really interesting question here from Tom Donald. And Tom's question is, hi Matt, would you recommend upping the duration and amount of under-over sessions as your FTP increases? And the answer is no. And the reason being, we're working, everyone in this session, there's 51 of us, we're all working in the over bits, 105% of our FTP, and then the under bit's 95% of FTP. And what 95 and 105% represent are different watts for different people, depending on what your current FTP is. So when your FTP increases, all it means is when you're doing the over part, the 105% part, we're working harder than we were when our FTP was lower. So, you know, think if your FTP is entered correctly, this session should be pretty demanding, and after 2 blocks of 16 minutes, you should be pretty gassed. You know, it's not to say you couldn't physically do another block, and would that be advantageous or not? Depends what you're doing the day before, the next day, and so on. But as a general rule of thumb, I think 2 blocks of 16 minutes over unders is pretty significant. So there'd be no need to do any more. And certainly, you know, higher or lower FTP doesn't dictate the length and a number of efforts that we should be doing. But yeah, great question, Tom. It's easy thing to, I guess, think. You know, as I get stronger, I should do more. And what we say at Rowe and King is, don't train more, train smarter. And it's quality over quantity. Remember those things, guys. Quality over quantity, and don't train more, train smarter. So our ideal cadence, guys, is yeah, if you're around 90 revs, you're spot on. There's no right or wrong cadence. But again, around 85 to 90 is kind of considered good or efficient. Just to type a quick message. Lovely. So this part, guys, we're covering. This is a real important part of the session, because if we don't recover properly, it means we can't do the next block properly. And coming back to my point, quality over quantity, you know, you could have a shorter rest period here and squeeze an extra couple of minutes of effort in. But I'm suggesting to you here that, you know, let's take a proper rest, recover properly, and then to my point about quality, let's just smash the next effort and really do it well, kind of, you know, basically pedaling the right watts for the entirety. So there's a question there about what do the pros pedal at. You know, it's all, if you look at the average cadence of a pro in the Tour de France, or, you know, in any pro race really, it's going to begin with an 8. You know, most races, the pros' average cadence begins with an 8, but that's made up of lots of time freewheeling, lots of time, you know, pedaling pretty quickly, you know, 130, 140 revs, accelerating out of a bend or in a tailwind section, or, you know, just trying to spin your legs. So, but if you're trying to get from the bottom of a climb to the top of a climb for a set section, you know, it's considered the most efficient cadence is around 90 revs a minute. Because of that cadence, you know, you're getting, for most people, you're kind of using the right amount of, you know, strength and muscle mass from your legs versus your cardiovascular system to produce that power. So if you think the force, the crank torque that you create, that produces watts, so the force is made up of the force you apply to the pedals, so how hard you push the pedals, times by how quickly you turn the pedals. And if you think how hard you push the pedals is a factor of, you know, how hard your muscles push and how much they're working, so the demand of your muscle mass, versus how quick you turn them is a factor of, yeah, how well trained you are pedaling quickly, but also it kind of demands, it places a demand on your system, so your heart and lungs and your cardiovascular system. So it's like a seesaw, either side. You're using your muscle mass and your heart and lungs, and kind of at 90 revs a minute is considered the most efficient use of both for kind of your average bike rider. And, you know, if you spend a lot of time getting used to pedaling a high, kind of a fast cadence in training, then chances are you're going to be more comfortable at over 90 revs, maybe 95 revs. If you've been cycling for years at a low cadence, as a lot of amateurs, most people have, then you may find it hard to pedal around the 90 revs a minute mark. So it's a kind of balancing act between, you know, what's kind of considered roughly best practice and what kind of range. And it's around, you know, 80 to 90 revs is fine. If you're outside of that range, you know, there's other factors that come into it. You know, your personal physical makeup, for example. Yeah, lots to it. So Brad's got a question here about, in terms of quality, are Zwift workouts better than IRL workouts? Quickly tell me what IRL means, if you don't mind. I'm a little bit in the dark on that one. I'll hold on for your reply. While I'm waiting for that, Ian Baller says, "Hi Matt, I'm training for the Dragon Ride Gran Fondo. I guess I need a lot of quantity as well as quality." Ideally, yes. You know, if you were to design a perfect training plan, you probably would, you know, considering your event is, I think, 300 kilometers, you know, ideally you would be riding for a lot of hours fairly frequently. And that is to do more than just condition your legs and make your legs strong, but it's also conditioning your heart and lungs and your whole system, getting them used to yeah, riding the bike for such a long time. But also your back, your neck, your hips, everything, getting your whole body used to being sat in that position on a bike for a long time. And that's important to avoid, you know, injury and discomfort on the day of the Dragon Ride. So in an ideal world, we're saying yes, you should be riding for quite a long time, fairly frequently. But for many, it's not possible because you know, we ain't got the time. So that's where, you know, substituting a long ride for an intense ride can have equally quality training benefit and will kind of lead to similar positive physiological adaptations. So things like, you know, the Dragon Ride is a one-day event. I think it might be 3 days. No, I think it's 1 day. It's 1 day 300k, the event you're doing. So 1 day 300 kilometers. You know, the day before, the few days before, you can properly rest up. So you're going to go into it super fresh. So in training, you can practice things like training a few days in a row to kind of build up that cumulative training fatigue. So like we're doing now in this session on a micro scale, we're doing 2 blocks. And the second block will be slightly more fatigued and it'll be slightly harder than the first block. Same theory applies to training multiple days in a row on the road or on Zwift or whatever. So yeah, if you can't get out for 5-6 hours rise frequently, train an hour on Zwift a couple of days in a row intensely. It's going to do something similar. So again, Brad, coming back to your question, IRL in real life. Should have known, sorry. So the question from Brad is training on Zwift as good a quality as training outdoors in real life? Well, I'd argue training on Zwift is better quality. And that's because, you know, every minute you spend on Zwift, you know, your muscles are tense, as we call it. So muscle tension is high. So there's no freewheeling. We don't stop pedaling for roundabouts, bends and the like. So time efficiency wise, hugely efficient. And you know, it's very controlled and measurable. So if you want to do certain efforts, like we're doing today, these over-unders, you can do those efforts bang on to the letter on Zwift easily. Whereas if you want to do something on the road, you know, it's a little bit more tricky to kind of find the right stretch of tarmac with this, that you're not going to be interrupted on. So that said, I fully appreciate that. You know, riding outside in real life, IRL, has its benefits. You know, fresh air, scenery, it's all good stuff. But from a pure training benefit, you can achieve what you want to achieve on the road, indoors on Zwift, in less time. Whether it's as enjoyable is another question. I would argue it is, but I see a few people kind of sat on the fence. So guys, you may notice we're back into the first part of the second block of over-unders. You're probably able to tell by my laboured tone of voice. Okay guys, coming up to the end of first little block. Good job everyone. Just in the under section now. So you may have noticed there, I just on the left hand side made use of the little arrows, the up and down arrows. Because I'm struggling to talk through the session, I've decreased the percentage of the session that's applied to me from 100% down to 90%. And you'll see then that the amount of watts I'm required to produce in the on and off bit will both decrease by 10%. I'm doing that so I can carry on talking to you guys. And I always say to people about those arrows, you know, be smart. Don't try and be a hero. And if you're finding it hard, for whatever reason, busy day on work, a bit tired from yesterday's session, you know, your motivation isn't quite there, you know, knock it down. Don't worry about battling on every session. You know, it's about the long haul. It's about the long game. It's about not destroying yourself physically and mentally today, so then your head's in the shed tomorrow and your legs are in the shed too. And get through each day in good shape. And again, it's part of that cumulative training effect that I mentioned. But good little turnout tonight, guys. 51 of us, which is fantastic. So thank you all for joining. Good to have you here, and hopefully as many of you know, this is a repeat session in terms of the time slot and the fact that I'm here on the Zwift Facebook page, on Stitcher and the like, narrating through the session. That's all here every week, and every week is a different session to keep it interesting with a slightly different focus. So some week the sessions focuses on developing your endurance, maybe it's your sprinting, today is your threshold. It can be a whole array of things. Come on Andrew. Andrew's there saying he needs all the help to get him through this. Well, Andrew, just think we've got 50 of us all in the same boat here. We're all pedaling away, slogging it out together. And we're all finding it equally challenging, so stick with it. One in, all in. Just trying to stir up a little bit of motivation there for people. There we go, we dip into the under section now. I say, really important, guys, to keep hydrated. Whew. Good job, good job. So, a minute and a half left now, guys, of this under block. You know, the legs are no doubt going to start really hurting now. As you say, suck it up, guys, we're all in it together. Well done. Hope you've all got your fans on, because in my garage it is cooking. I've got 2 fans on full whack, and thankfully I have got them on, because I would be pouring with sweat. And just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean that, yeah, that you're not losing that liquid. So yeah, I'm banging on about it, but keeping hydrated, absolutely critical. And I'm sure you'd all be shocked at how much liquid you can use and lose in a 1 hour high intensity Zwift session. You can easily lose 750 ml. So if you're going through 1 bottle in an hour, likely you're going to finish dehydrated. Which is okay, you know, you're not going to lose too much liquid. So as long as you finish and then rehydrate, that's great. But even better, try on board more liquids during the session. If you're struggling to produce the same power indoors that you can outdoors, that is absolutely normal. And if you listen to some of our Zwift coaching podcasts, we discuss on one of them, I think it may be, no, I don't know actually, I think it may be the FTP, the threshold one, maybe number 5. We talk about, you know, how much harder is it indoors compared to outdoors to produce the same power. I think we kind of agreed that it's around 7 or 8%, which is significant, you know. So if you can't quite hack the power and you're a little bit demotivated, it's normal. And I just counsel you, you know, try and compare apples with apples and pears with pears. I compare indoor workouts with indoor workouts and outdoor workouts with outdoor workouts, because there is a definite difference. Good man, thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Okay guys, 7 seconds left of this over bit. Then it's a slight ease, slight recovery. We're still 95% of FTP. If you need to get out of the saddle, just ease yourself a little bit. Do what you got to do. Now, don't suffer in silence there. You know, kind of saddle sores and discomfort on the bike is kind of a taboo subject in a way. But you know, there's no beating around the bush. I think most people when asked, you know, in confidence about how much so do they suffer with discomfort on the bike, saddle sores basically, there's something like 90% say they have or do. So you're not alone. And if you are suffering with discomfort, you know, get medical advice if you think it's worthwhile. Go get it checked out. Certainly don't try and battle through it if it is really causing you a lot of pain. It's only going to manifest itself and get worse. Coming up to the end of our 12th minute now, guys. That's it, guys. Buckle up. The whole session will be done in 9 minutes. 4 minutes of effort, 5 minutes of cool down. Wham bam, thank you, Sam. We're done. Stick with it, come on. There we go, guys, stick with it, fantastic. Not a true word said. I think you look back at this session after when we finished and give yourselves a pat on the back, because this is certainly a strenuous session. Certainly falls in the high intensity interval training HIIT category. Certainly will make you feel tired tomorrow. Certainly will make you a better bike rider once rested. And it certainly hurts. Certainly an uncomfortable session. But as I said earlier, guys, there's 51 of us doing it. We're all on the same boat. Let's just suck it up. Come on, guys. Awesome. We're into the last 50 seconds now of the over part. And then it's 2 minutes under and we're done. Absolutely fantastic. Well done. Remember, guys, keep your head up. Head up. Head up and just enjoy looking at the marine life. Look out for that massive whale. No retreat, no surrender. Absolutely. Nearly there, guys, well done. Awesome. 15 seconds, then it's the final 2 minutes. And the pace is going to ease off in 5 seconds. Never surrender, guys, never surrender. Come on, final 2 minutes. Heads up high. That's good, guys. You know, mentally, guys, we're there, we've done it. Literally have done it. So that's 30 minutes so far, guys. We've done 30 minutes of over-unders into our final 2 minutes to make it 32 minutes. So in an hour, we've warmed up, we will have cooled down, and we've had a rest in between, and we've completed 32 minutes of around threshold work. That is a significant workload, hugely time efficient. Now, half the time we spent on the turbo, we've been on it, and I mean absolutely on it. So well done. Final minute. Well done all, well done. This is great to see. Absolutely great to see. And 40 seconds to go. And the legs are going to be hurting now. This is going to be the final stretch. We're all there. We are home and dry, guys. We are home and dry. If we were playing baseball, we'd be knocking home runs. If we were playing snooker, we'd be shooting 147s. If we were cycling, we'd be nailing Zwift events. If we were playing football, we'd be in the World Cup, guys. Here we go, a few seconds. Boom. Fair play, everyone. Fair play, fair play. Awesome. Awesome. Top effort. Well done, John. Yeah, well done, everyone. That was something special. That was something special. I'm saying in 4 minutes time, guys, we're gonna be off Zwift. We're gonna be having a recovery drink maybe, or having a shower, bite to eat, but we're gonna be starting our recovery process. So first thing up, I would say, yeah, have a shower. So we were talking a minute ago about saddle sores and discomfort and the like. It all starts with your hygiene, you know, keeping clean. So yeah, have a shower, dry off and all that, and get some comfies on if you haven't got to go to work. And then it's about refueling. So again, nutritionists say there's about a 30-minute window, they say. It's kind of like the golden half hour that your body's kind of open and kind of just crying out for nutrients, carbohydrates, protein to start the recovery process. So yeah, quick as you can really, and ideally within the half an hour. Sorry, slightly distracted. So in that half hour, really important that we replenish nutrients and minerals, vitamins and minerals and all that. So an easy way to do that is, you know, have a square meal. You know, bit of carbs, bit of protein, and, you know, some fruit and veg. If you can't do that, maybe you're in a rush, or you're not that clever in the kitchen. That's me. I go for kind of ready-made recovery shakes. So there's plenty on the market. I use the ones by Science and Sport. It's got everything you could want in there to recover properly. It's got some carbs in there. It's got protein, and it's got a few basic, you know, vitamin C and a few basic minerals that you're gonna need. So that's it's just super convenient. You know, you can almost out of the shower while you're still drying, you can be having your protein shake. Super convenient. Whatever you do, guys, make sure you have something to eat now. Certainly rehydrate pretty quickly, and start that recovery process going. Because the quicker you start, you get all those vitamins and minerals and all the nutrients into you, the quicker your body will start repairing itself, stronger for next time. And now even this bit now, where we just turn our legs down, we're kind of cooling down physically and psychologically. So physically, you know, just turning our legs, getting our system working, getting rid of those toxins from our legs, you know, recycling, getting rid of those waste products, the lactic acid and the toxins. And also mentally, we're just winding down and just starting to switch off. There's anyone who's done a real intense session just before bed and then tried to sleep, or if you've raced late at night, you'll know it's pretty hard to go from cycling intensely to sleeping. It takes a bit of time, so yeah, it's just all part of that winding down. And you can see that the effort here, what's required, is slowly decreasing as we let that resistance just drift away. Oh man. But now, just say again, guys, thank you all for joining. Top session. Good to have you all here, and same time next week, same time every week. It's UK time, BST or GMT, whatever it is at the time. Obviously we're in British summertime now. 7:45 PM. And normally about an hour. So today was bang on an hour. Workout Wednesday with Matt Rowe. Thanks for coming.